Hello and welcome to SCN Corporate Connect. I'm Jane King at the New York Stock Exchange. With me today, David Carvalho, the CEO of Naoris. Am I saying it right first?
You are indeed.
Okay, awesome. So first tell me about the company and then let's get into your background. So what is Naoris?
Sure. So Naoris is a company that aims to fundamentally disrupt the way that cybersecurity works by changing the way that it functions at its lowest level. So we actually go into a market that has seen all sorts of breaches coming into the fray. It's very common for you to turn on the news and see that the company has been breached, millions of records have been lost. Cyber espionage, cyber war going on amongst different states. I will not mention them here, but people will hear about them in the news. And all sorts of cybercrime happening as well. So this actually ends up being a cost to the global economy as of now of about $3 trillion a year. And the areas in cybersecurity that actually get investment from companies that aim to defend themselves globally is about $1 trillion a year, but still we don't see any results. So we aim to come here and fully decentralize that space, therefore making it really hard for attackers to subvert a distributed system, and that's really what we're here to do.
Okay, so I want to talk to you more about the company and what you do, but let's go into your background because you've got an amazing resume in cryptography and information security and hardware security and machine learning, and I mean, it's just unbelievable. So tell me a little bit about you and where'd you go to school, what kind of jobs have you had, and what led you to start the company?
So I was always a bit of a thinker, and I actually, the first computer I got was just too slow to play games, and that's probably the reason why I'm here, because if it was probably I would just be playing games. And I actually learned how to program and also learned English with it. At the time I was basically interested in what you would call today cyber forensics. At the time it was just called undeleting stuff. So over time I actually worked quite a bit as a freelancer in cybercrime investigation. And I was a cybersecurity researcher for quite a while, and then I had a number of jobs in big global companies doing cybersecurity, which at the time was quite a niche thing, and to an extent is becoming a lot more democratized now. So my latest two roles were at quite high level. I was the Chief Information Security Officer of London City Airport, and also the Global Chief Information Security Officer for a group of companies called OCS Group. They actually do mainly physical security. They employ about 70,000 people just in Southeast Asia area, in total about 100,000 people, so they are a giant of outsourcing in that area. And I was always involved in actually protecting critical infrastructure or national critical infrastructure or nation-state-based digital assets. Obviously, my perspective to coming into this space was a perspective of from a cybersecurity technical researcher, and what can I do to actually change the approach to something that has been done over and over in the same way without changing results. So that's kind of like the definition of insanity.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we've had so many problems, and we can't keep up with all these hacks that are going on.
From elections to military secrets being stolen to cyber espionage, etc. Absolutely.
So let's go back to Naoris for a second. So you mentioned blockchain. So how can blockchain be used to make this business more efficient, to actually be able to be more productive?
By approaching this problem with a blockchain-based solution, and actually, this actually allows us to use techniques that were never possible before, due to the decentralized nature of our environment. So basically, if let's say that I am an attacker, and I can give the example of Equifax. One single system that was subverted led to the attacker actually moving around across the company and actually owning the business after a while and exfiltrating whatever information he wanted. So hundreds of millions of records, credit cards, other sorts of financial information that will have a lot of impact on people's lives. This is just one example. There's thousands and thousands. So my point is, actually, the more complex a system is traditionally, the easier it is for an attacker to find a vulnerability in just one system and then subvert all the others. So our perspective actually turns that around completely. So we basically transform traditional boring networks into blockchains. So that means that every computer or device within those networks will actually know about the source of truth of all the others. So they cryptographically know what to expect correctly or incorrectly. So we can actually say, we can actually make the attacker have a much harder life when attacking these systems, because when traditionally he just had to subvert one to actually own the whole company, right now it's the opposite. He actually needs to subvert all of them to own one.
Interesting. Okay.
So they act as an army, let's say.
Yes. Now, you've also got some high-tech heavy hitters on your an advisory board, or they're helping with the company, right?
Absolutely. So I am fortunate enough to be very well known, at least in the UK and in the European sphere of cybersecurity, as a thought leader. I do speak in a lot of conferences and symposiums, and I meet really interesting people that are thought leaders in this area as well, and many of them are my personal friends. And after actually giving them either a demo of our product or explaining them what we are doing, they have become interested in being our advisors. Many of them are published authors, CEO of cybersecurity companies or compliance companies, and or they're actually at C-level in some companies, big companies. Also, an ex-chief of intelligence of NATO. That actually saw the power in what we are trying to do, or actually we have achieved already, backed by a blockchain system that allows us to do things that were not possible before. Looking into the future, as cybersecurity every year basically doubles or triples the amount of assets that are lost and the number of attacks that exist in systems. So our solution actually brings quite a different approach to that very hard to deal problem.
Oh my goodness, and I can only imagine that it's going to grow exponentially as we become even more technological in the future generation. So tell me about your token. You're also selling a token.
So as you mentioned, so as the IoT grows, it also makes sense to have actually a background that is blockchain based, that actually manages all these verifications and transactions within our ecosystem. So the ecosystem is a blockchain-based ecosystem, and our token offering is initially of an ERC20 based token. So this is what we'll be selling on our pre-sale and a token generation event. But after, we'll be releasing also to the initial investors or to the initial, how can I say, adopters of this token, another token that will actually be used in the backbone of the cybersecurity engagement. Why? As more devices actually get added to the network and added to the world, you know, as you said, you know, the more time passes, the more devices actually appear in the world, be it phones or laptops or servers, etc. It becomes very complex. So blockchain, fortunately, thrives in complexity, which is the opposite of what happens in traditional environments. So with that environment, we allow people to actually mine that cryptocurrency, and instead of just mining coins for mining coins, they actually mine cybersecurity, and they're paid with something of value for it. So this allows us to have two tokens, one that actually identifies and is a utility towards our customers, and another one that allows the masses or the what we call the security node holders to actually mine cryptocurrency, even without having big hardware, because we'll be using a different approach to mining than, for example, Bitcoin uses. So you can actually mine.
You don't have all the energy kind of use that you need. That's a whole other story. So David, what customers are you aiming for?
Oh, that's a very good question. Thanks for asking. So actually the area of that we are aiming actually are, they are hard to protect environments. These are the areas that we are aiming at. So I'm talking about critical infrastructure clients, national critical infrastructure clients, things like airports, hospitals, nuclear power stations, so on. Critical infrastructure, things like water treatment plants, dams, things like this that have lots of SCADA devices and PLC systems, small logical chips that are very hard to protect. And also industrial clients, and of course nation states and militaries. So nation state agencies, governance structures, and militaries, they tend to be high value targets that tend to have the hardest to defend attacks thrown out at them, mainly through cyber war and cyber espionage. And these are the areas that we believe that we will shine on with our blockchain based environments.
So thank you so much, David Carvalho, for joining us today, CEO of Naoris. Best of luck to you, and a huge global problem. So best of luck as you try to solve that. So thank you very much. And thank you as well for joining us on SCN Corporate Connect. I'm Jane King at the New York Stock Exchange. Have a great day.